The Kansas City Chiefs were back at practice on Wednesday, and I've got everything you need to know from the injury report, the news, and the highlights from Chiefs camp up in St. Joe on today's KCS Update presented by DraftKings.
This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
What is up, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome to today's episode of KCS Update presented by DraftKings. Very excited for you to join me here as I get you caught up on everything you need to know from Kansas City Chiefs training camp on August the 2nd. It was a rainy Wednesday morning out at training camp. If you follow us on Twitter at KC Sports Network, I guess it's X now, but whatever you follow, whatever the app is called, if you follow us there, you saw some of the clips that I'm going to show you here as we get into the video a little bit more. I've got the news, the highlights, and injury report as always, but something special I got today. No presser clips for today, because instead I have a conversation with Jeff Allen and Mike DeVito of our one-on-one podcast, two guys that played in the Andy Reid era for the Kansas City Chiefs. They talk about the Chris Jones situation, a topic that's kind of fallen by the wayside as Chris Jones still has yet to report to camp. We're going to get their thoughts on it here in a little bit, but first, let's go ahead and start with that injury report as we look at it for Wednesday's practice. Mike Dana did not practice with a calf injury. Also not on practicing, Jody Fortune with his shoulder. L'Jarius Sneed sat out of today's practice with a sore knee. And obviously, Kadarius Toney didn't practice for the Chiefs with his knee. He had that meniscus cleanup a few weeks ago. And a very interesting, something else to note, Tommy Townsend has an ankle sprain, according to Coach Reid, but it's not serious. Again, I mentioned on, I think it was yesterday's video that you did see Tommy Townsend go down. I think that might have been a couple days video, actually. He did go down, and he was checked out. He left a little early practice, but he was checked out, and he was not placed on the injury report at all following practice. So must have not been very serious. He did leave practice early, went up on a cart, but that's just because they got a big old hill out there up in St. Joe. Wanted to make sure everything was okay for Tommy Townsend there. That's the only punter they got on the roster right now. So got to make sure he is healthy through camp. An interesting piece, if you notice, I did not mention Tershawn Wharton, and that is because Tershawn Wharton was back at practice on Wednesday. This tweet from Jesse Newell here of the KC Star. Chiefs Turk Wharton out here for practice. Appears he'll be activated off the PUP list today. Now is the time of recording this video. He has not been officially activated off the PUP list, but if he's practicing, he's going to be activated off the PUP list. That means the Chiefs will have no one on the physically unable to perform list heading into the first preseason game, which is exciting to see. And I love to see that. Another exciting little bit of tidbit of news that we got. We know that Isaiah Pacheco's been wearing that yellow non-contact jersey because he's been dealing with some ailments. I think he had surgery on his hand, surgery on his shoulder as well in the offseason. This tweet here from James Palmer kind of details the timeline for return for Isaiah Pacheco. He tweets, "From my understanding, Chiefs running back Isaiah Pacheco should be cleared for contact by the 20th of August. Hand is good. It's the shoulder that's left to be cleared." I think that was kind of what everyone speculated. Isaiah Pacheco, even when he stepped to the podium early on in camp, we talked about how his hand was good. His shoulder, he said, is also good. They're just waiting for that clearing of him being able to run through those guys' faces and run through contact. So very excited to see him out here on the field. And you can even see a little bit of rehab going on right now with Isaiah Pacheco after practice, stuck around for some rehab on that shoulder, getting some work and done on that. He's been doing that during team sessions when he can't go full contact either, but he stuck around after practice, get some more medicine ball work, and that's what it looks like. But very exciting to see what he's got there. Also super excited to see Tershawn Wharton back into the mix. I already mentioned him earlier. It looks like he's going to be activated off that physically unable to perform list, but he comes at a time where the Chiefs greatly need some help on the interior defensive line, and he's going to come back hopefully with Chris Jones shortly behind him. Would love to see it. So let's get to Mike and Jeff's conversation on our one-on-one podcast here on KC Sports Network. You can find the full audio version of this podcast is going to come out tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. That's Thursday morning at 6 a.m. You can listen to the full conversation, but here's a little clip from their conversation talking about Chris Jones and the whole situation as a whole, getting two former players' perspectives that have played with Coach Reid and have played for this Kansas City Chiefs team, this regime that they have in Kansas City, their perspective on the Chris Jones situation. Here's what they had to say.
All right, Big Jeff. So we didn't lead off with this, but it's sort of the elephant in the room, excluding me, and that would be the Chris Jones situation. So there are, everybody knows what's going on with Chris Jones. Obviously, this is a Hall of Fame player. Arguably the greatest defensive lineman in the NFL right now. And boy, I love him. He's just, he was one of those guys. I went down to see the Chiefs in 2016 when they came in to play New England, and I saw Chris Jones, and I was like, he is monstrous. I mean, he just, he's a big dude, special dude, big presence, leader. But obviously the contract stuff is going on. And so there's two angles I want to hit here. The first is, are you optimistic or pessimistic that this gets done before season starts? And then the second, you and I can chop it back and forth about this, is what is it like from a player's perspective when you have a star player who's holding out for a better contract? So let's start with the first one, brother. Just looking at the situation from the outside, obviously we don't know the nuts and bolts. I was probably personally more optimistic until I saw Andy Reid's press conferences recently. Now, it's not that I'm pessimistic now, but I can tell there seems to be a little bit of frustration on Andy Reid's.
Yeah.
Whether that is a play to get him to, there's all this stuff going on back and forth. But sorry, long-winded. What do you think, brother? Optimistic, pessimistic? Chris Jones.
I'm going to be optimistic. The reason why is because Chris isn't necessarily, he isn't a selfish guy. He's really a tame guy. So I know this is eating him alive, not being in camp with his guys, not being able to, get better and build that camaraderie with the team. And I understand both sides of it, man. I understand, the business side of it from the team perspective. They're trying to build a roster. Beach is not just thinking about this season. He's thinking about years to come and, what that would do to the salary cap if they give him exactly what he wants. He wants to get paid. I saw something like $30 million a year. The ramifications of that, that could crush. That's quarterback money almost. Not new quarterback money. That's old quarterback money, but
right.
That's a lot of cash for a D tackle. It's going to eat up a lot of the salary cap. But I also understand Chris's perspective. Chris has earned it. He's played his ass off. He's been overly productive. He's outplayed his contract, and he was one of the highest paid D tackles. And when you compare him to the highest paid D tackle, which is Aaron Donald, he has taken the throne. Last year he was the best defensive tackler. So, he deserves what he's asking. He's not asking for anything that he doesn't deserve. So it's a tricky situation. There's going to have to be compromises on both sides. I don't think Chris will be able to get what he's asking, but I don't think the Chiefs will be able to give him just anything. So they're going to have to figure out a common ground and make this work. But I do think they're going to make it work. There's no way around it. They need Chris to continue to go on this run that they've been on.
All right, as I mentioned, you can catch that full episode tomorrow morning, Thursday morning at 6 a.m. out wherever you listen to our podcast at KC Sports Network. You can find that KCSN, the Kansas City Chiefs site on, wherever you listen to your podcast, you can listen to that. I like Spotify. Some people like Apple Music. Actually, a lot of our downloads come from Apple Music, Apple Podcasts. You can see that in our feed as well. But I like the Spotify version. It doesn't matter where you listen to podcasts. As long as you're listening to them, I'm never going to chastise you for what podcast platform. There's a lot of really good ones out there. So really appreciate you guys sticking with us here at KC Sports Network. Also drop a like on this video and subscribe. Once you subscribe, you can become a first teamer. So everybody wants to be a first teamer, especially this time of year. So make sure you are a first teamer. Let's wrap up today's video with highlights from training camp. As I mentioned, a little bit of a drizzly day out there in St. Joe. But we're going to first start off with a special teams highlight. You know me, I like the teams, and I think the teams is going to show a lot of what's important for this team. We're going to first top in with Amir Smith-Marset and Justin Ross returning punts. Amir Smith-Marset returning punts is interesting, but the biggest thing for me is that Justin Ross punt return. I talked about with Joshua Briscoe about how Justin Ross is gonna need to perform on special teams. He was running some gunner reps during punt. Now it looks like he's punt returning. So all very good things to see from Justin Ross. Good sign that he is going to be on the roster. They put him on the podium on Wednesday, I should say, as well. So all good signs that Justin Ross could be on this roster come that official 53-man, I believe, on August 29th. Next, we're going to go to the team session here. MVS running a whip route. I think that's what it is. It's kind of hard to tell in the clip. And these guys have so many different lingos for the types of route. I'm calling it a whip route. If I'm wrong, you can let me know in the comment section. I am okay being wrong. I would love to learn. But I think this is a little bit of a whip route, showcasing another area of MVS's abilities of his pass catching. Very good play here during that team session. We're going to keep it with the team session, as this is kind of a trick play, but I think this is a very much of an Andy Reid play with Sky Moore. A little bit of an end around play, some misdirection, motion with the tight end. Looks like Noah Gray's been getting a lot of reps with the first and second team. You can see him in motion there. Sky comes around that back end and gets the handoff off of the misdirection. Could be a fun little play to see Sky Moore in space, see what he can do. I know he's been known for yards after catch, and just get the ball in his hands and see him work is going to be really fun, I think, this year. Let's go to the 7-on-7 session. This is a big one here. This is a pass to Justin Ross. As I've mentioned already, the darling of Chiefs camp. He's really been rising up the ranks when it comes to his abilities and the reps that he's been getting. A lot of first-team reps that he got on Wednesday during their team session. What I think is really interesting, Craig Stout quote tweeted the video that we put out at KC Sports Network. You can follow Craig on Twitter at Craig_KCSN. He tweeted, "Usually we have seen an extreme focus on separation from the Chiefs wide receiver group with Patrick Mahomes. If they're truly integrating their contested catch receivers, Ross and Rice, like they have in camp, heavy man coverage may not matter like it once did." Justin Ross showing a great ability to go up and get the ball and get these contested catches. Very excited to see how the Chiefs do integrate that. Craig makes a great point. Man coverage did give him a little bit of fits last year. It could not matter when you look at Rashee Rice and Justin Ross. So that's going to do it for today's video. Really appreciate you guys sticking around. If you did stick around, drop a lock in that comment section. You know the vibes already. Make sure to like and subscribe so you can become a first teamer, and hit that notification bell so you know when we drop another video. I'll be back tomorrow with another training camp update. So until then, I'll talk to you guys later.